Welcome to the HBTV HellaBlack Business Hour. We are going to get started momentarily. Our featured speakers and guests are in the house. We're excited to explore this important topic. So we're going to give folks another 2 more minutes and then we are going to get started. Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. All right, with that, we'll put the music back on for another 2 minutes and then we'll get started. Get right into it. Hello and welcome to the HellaBlack Business Happy Hour. Before we get started, there's a few housekeeping items that we want you to take note of. All right. 1, please keep yourself on mute. That's all devices. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box and communicate with one another. This is a great opportunity for us to network and to learn from one another and share contact information. You never know who your next customer or your next client may be found in this chat. And let's learn from our experts. So let's have a great time and discuss this very important topic about mental health. For the best viewer experience, please put your view in grid view so you can see all of our wonderful guests. For those of you who are new to the HellaBlack community, welcome. A little bit about HellaBlack. Our mission is very simple, is to promote and elevate the stories behind the Black business owners, their brands, and to celebrate the creativity and excellence of the African American community. HellaBlack is committed to providing a best-in-class e-commerce experience with the most sought-after Black-owned brands and products. So, what we would love for you to do is to meet the HellaBlack team. As you can see on the screen, we are all Black tech team, and to note, all female, that we are extremely proud of. We would love for you to learn a little bit more about how to become a seller on HellaBlack. So we invite you to head to HellaBlack.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a button that says Become a Seller. Click on that and learn more about the fees, how to sell, how to be successful on our platforms, the benefits and the basics about being a part of our HellaBlack community, and a little bit about our Give Back program that as a seller you'll be contributing to. So we're super excited about this discussion today. And with that, we're going to hop right in and meet our guests. Thank you so much, Alina Conley and Dr. Janae Taylor, for joining us. Both fabulous coaches, being able to take the time and support Black entrepreneurs with your respective businesses. There's so much that we want to dig into, but first I'm gonna hand the floor over to you, Alina, to introduce yourself, and then to you, Dr. Janae, to introduce yourself.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that kind welcome, and thank you for having me. I am Alina Conley. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a personal development and productivity coach. And I really just go and help women face this paradigm of work-life balance. So I like to tell people, if you want to create harmony between work and home, you can do that. We often sacrifice either our work when we become moms, or we sacrifice our families when we're trying to build businesses, and it just doesn't have to be like that. As a mom of 4 and a owner of several businesses, I have really made it my personal mission to make sure that we can really create happier women, especially happier Black women. And we know that the research shows that women are not happy just doing one thing. We want to do it all. We want to be able to have our careers, our families, we want to travel, we want to look good. And so I think that the key to really bringing all of that together is really having what I like to call mindful productivity habits. And so I hope that today we can really get into what that looks like for everyone. And I'm excited to really be able to share some stuff with you guys and hear what you all have to share as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Well, all right. I am excited to be in such wonderful company. And I spent a little time in Athens, Georgia, so I know a little bit about Atlanta. That was my stomping grounds a few years back. But my name is Dr. Janae Taylor. Hello, everyone. And I bring you greetings from Virginia Beach, Virginia, where I am here and I own and operate a private practice here, Taylor Counseling and Consulting Services, where I provide mental health services exclusively to the Black community. One of my newest branches to the business, the consulting side, has been a real focus on Black entrepreneurship and specifically the mental health needs of Black entrepreneurs. And so the name of that consulting space is called Minding My Black Business. And it's the space where Black entrepreneurs can check in on their mental health and each other. And so I offer digital resources, small group programs, some one-on-one consultation if necessary. There's also a podcast connected to that where I do solo episodes and interview Black entrepreneurs, not only about their business building journey, but about some of the mental health implications connected to that. So I'm excited to hear about all the tips and share a few things as well, and just really kind of get into this conversation. This is just like right up my alley. I love it.
I love it. I'm so proud to have you both here with us, and I feel a little bit better because my mental health just went out the window when my Chrome just crashed. And let's just dig right in. You know, as business owners yourself, you as a mom, you know, as a woman, there's so much pressure with launching a business. What are some of the weaknesses, the significant weaknesses that can really harm, from a personality perspective, that can harm you as an entrepreneur? I'll start with you, Dr. Taylor, and then I'll turn to you, Alina.
Oh my goodness. So what are some of the most significant things that can be harmful to Black entrepreneurs in particular? For me, the thing that kind of rises to the top is isolation. There are so many things that you have to just like checks and balances that have to happen just to kind of practically get the business off the ground. But then there's like this emotional toll that we all have to deal with, right? Essentially, it's our baby. And because it is, we can be very protective of it, not sharing our dream, not pulling other people in because we don't want to be embarrassed or have them change our mind or not be distracted. And as a result, we can wind up being quite isolated as we build our business. And that isolation can do so much damage to our trajectory, to our confidence, to our focus in that way. I also see that because we're isolated, we don't connect with other Black entrepreneurs. When we hear people talk about Black businesses, hopefully this tide is going to continue to turn, but we talk so badly about Black businesses and our customer service and all these things, right? It seems like people give us one shot and then they're done with us, right? And so as a result, we don't necessarily connect with other Black business owners, which is, I'm so grateful for us to have a forum like this, because then you can really kind of get into the nitty gritty about even things around like, who does your taxes? I'm looking for a bookkeeper, you know, like all those types of things to kind of help stay connected and to get you connected with resources you might not otherwise know about. So we're isolated, then we also don't have connection with other Black entrepreneurs. And then the other part is the imposter syndrome. I think, you know, when we are creating our business in secret or in private, we come with all these beautiful, wonderful ideas, right? The sky's the limit. But sometimes when it's time to actually put where the rubber meets the road, we can get a little gun shy. And especially if we feel like someone already else is doing the idea or people not going to care about what we have to say, we can really let that doubt overtake us and get us at a standstill.
Absolutely. Alina?
Yeah, I mean, I think that along the same lines as what Dr. Taylor said in terms of isolation is I find that business owners try to go it alone for too long. I know I experienced that. It's like, oh, I got all of these tuitions. I don't got money to be paying, employees. And the reality is that if we really want to build and scale businesses, we have to build teams. We also need to understand that being able to really focus in on our zone of genius increases our overall well-being. So what we find with a lot of entrepreneurs or especially solopreneurs is that we know a little bit of everything, and so we're like, oh well, I'll just have to do it, right? I run the marketing, I run the ops, I'm doing the outreach, and then I'm actually creating the programs, I'm doing the coaching sessions. Like, you're looking up and you're doing 10 things and you're wondering why you don't have any time for yourself. You wonder why your kids are upset every time they see mommy with the phone. And it's because we are not allowing ourselves to outsource soon enough. I think that it's important that we tap into resources that other people have. I know that for me, I share a lot of resources with other business owners. We share admins, we share project managers to cut down on costs. Virtual assistants are still, the best thing since sliced bread when it comes to being able to, have someone who can get it done, especially a lot of those social media things. And I think that when it comes to being able to release that control, right? So we know that when something is our baby, right? This is our project. Nobody can do it like me. It's really hard for us to ask for help. And I think that especially CEOs at the top of, their game, they need to embrace being able to delegate, eliminate, and automate. Okay. And when we can do that and embrace this mindset of enterprise and having people support us, it makes it much easier for us to step away from our businesses and still make money. But it's that mindset shift around being able to let go of control, being able to prioritize our well-being so that every choice that we make in our business aligns with that.
So you both said the word control a lot, right? And as you know, when we launched HellaBlack, we held on and pushed back the launch date. I can't tell you how many times we cried together because we wanted it to be perfect. Talk to us about how do you deal with that. I feel like it's the biggest roadblock. It's like perfect means you're not going to get it done. How do you overcome that, especially when you have a limited budget, you're scared out of your mind, you probably got a kid crying, you got to make dinner, and you got your full-time job. Let's talk about getting from a concept to overcoming what needs to be perfect to just getting it going. Start with you, Dr. Taylor.
Okay. So when I hear the word control, whether I find myself talking about that or I'm hearing someone talk about that, for me, that automatically connects to anxiety. And so when I think about anxiety, I think about it being a combination of things, either fear, stress, or worry. So it could be one of those things or a combination of all three of those. And so oftentimes control feels like the antidote to the worry, stress, and fear. If I just kind of make sure it's perfect, then everything will be okay. When in fact, and it's helpful too, so it makes sense in theory that we want to have some level of predictability when we're feeling out of control. That makes perfect sense. And to some extent, you should have that. You should have a schedule. You should have a launch date. But when it stops you from moving forward, now you've kind of tipped it. You've tipped it too far. Your control has gone too far. And so part of it is getting connected to what is my fear? What is my worry? What is my stress? Is it that I feel like this is going to flop? Do I feel like people will ignore me? Do I feel like all of this is a terrible decision? Or am I really just concerned about the feedback that I'll get? Like really getting at what is the thing that's scaring you, that's creating such this strong need for control? Then you can address that. That's the thing that we can pinpoint on and help you change the way you think about it and talk about it, change the narrative about the thing that is the kind of the boogie monster in the corner. So when I hear control, it's really about what's really scaring me right now
Like
at this point.
it's a deeper conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Alina, when you're working with clients and coaching them through, how do you get them over that hurdle of just getting it going?
Oh my gosh, this is probably the number one thing that happens in my sessions, especially when I'm working with startups. And it is because, you know, as Black women, we just want everything to be excellent. Like, this is representing me. It needs to have the perfect graphics. It needs to have the perfect marketing funnel, whatever. And so it goes back to, like you said, Dr. Taylor, you know, why do you feel like you have to be on? You can't make mistakes. Like, what about that, you know, is the issue? But what I do, to answer your question, is I really try to help my clients focus on the minimal viable product. And I know that many of us have heard similar terms, but it's really thinking about what is most essential. I'll give an example. I have a client who recently left her job to go and open up a school. And this was just really created out of the need of her children not having the opportunity to learn about Black culture in the Memphis area, but also wanting to have this private school kind of Montessori style, right? That doesn't exist. So we said, let's create it. The problem was that a lot of her interactions was based on, well, I don't want to talk to anyone until I have all of these things lined up. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, she had lost her initial location. And she stopped taking calls from people who were interested in the school because she was like, I feel like an imposter. I don't even have a building. And I said, when people are calling, they're calling for you. They're calling for your program. And so kind of reaffirming why you created the school allowed her to realize it's not the building that they care about. Now, obviously, they want to know that you're in the process. And so it's really about pointing out, okay, what are the things that you need to do to get this school going? You need students, right? In order for you to get students, you need to have your sales calls, you need to have your webinars. But beyond that, everything else is just extra. What do you need to do to secure a location? And so we'll go through, you know, all of the things. And to your point, Dr. Taylor, when we go get to the root of it, she ended up having, you know, 3 plan Bs on the back, but she just didn't have that perfect location that she wanted. And I'm like, why are you even on my phone right now? Like, you have 3 other options, girl. We just wasted a whole session. But I think that the takeaway was, you know, it allowed her to kind of scale back, right? I always teach my clients, achieve more by doing less. Everybody's trying to do all the things at once, when instead it's take the most important thing right now. What are the 3 things that are going to be required to get that one thing done? That one thing is going to build your self-efficacy and create momentum, so then everything else doesn't feel as hard and as scary. But until you do that one thing, your mind is tricking you out of everything that is on the other side of that anxiety and that fear.
You said the right word, trick. Because it is nothing but, I don't know what everyone's faith is, but the devil is a lie. So everything to make you not succeed and go after your goals, just put it to the side. So Black folks, and particularly Black women, are opening up businesses at record numbers. And that's a great thing, right? But it's all also being done in the context of social unrest and a pandemic and kids, you know, at home on Zoom doing class and you working from home. What are some of the red flags as an entrepreneur that you should pay attention to? Because sometimes we keep brushing it off. But what are some of the red flags, Dr. Taylor, that we should all pay attention to and not ignore?
Ooh, okay. So some of the things that I think are really important that I hear a lot. So in addition to the anxiety, because that tends to be a lot of it, and there's just like an anxiety in general that people experience, but there's like an entrepreneurial anxiety. And some of that can be connected to kind of like what we talked about, imposter syndrome. It can be connected to finances, because that's another thing, is that this business is meant to make your life better, but it also stretches you before you start to hit the, you know, the money windfall. And so that can be a lot. There's relationship strains that this creates. One of the interesting dynamics that I've kind of caught in doing the podcast. So the podcast guests are both men and women, Black men and women. And when the Black men are starting their business, oftentimes the household is now starting a business. So they are helping with a social media post or putting orders together or answering the phones or responding to emails. But when the Black woman is starting the business, oftentimes it's the Black woman starting the business. And it's the assumption that she will manage that and all the other things. And not that people aren't not willing to help. They just kind of like, just tag me in when you need me, as opposed to this kind of gathering around that happens for Black men. Hopefully that changes, but that's the dynamic that I keep seeing happen. So I think for Black women, it's important for us to recognize that dynamic, that we might need to tell people, hey, I know it looks like I have it all together, but I actually need you to do this, this, and this. So delegate those things. So with that connects with boundaries. So being able to have boundaries with all of your relationships when it comes to the business, not letting that bleed too much over into home, as well as being really transparent with home about what's happening with the business. And then most importantly is a lack of self-care is the thing that I'm noticing above all. And so when I say that, because we hear self-care and we hear all sorts of things. And, in the therapy world, we feel like that word kind of got co-opted. So we're trying to grab that back. Therapists are trying to grab that word back. But I really mean at the basic root, like, are you sleeping? Like, are you getting 6 hours of sleep? Have you eaten lunch? Are you checking emails before you get out of bed in the morning? Like, are you drinking water? Like those like very basic things that maintains the body that will kind of help you show up as your best self at home and in the business. So those are some of the things that show up as themes.
Now, you just said something that triggered something in me about being a female entrepreneur and asking for help. And my husband and my kids, they all need to get involved. I mean, literally, I'm just thinking as you were talking, I said, I'm gonna have him do this, I'm gonna have them do that. And I never thought about it. And so it's because of who we are as women, we do that. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And you kind of, I hope that helped the women that are on this call to really reach out to get help when needed. And I know, Dr. Taylor, you have to hop. So we have one more question for you from a clinical, from a medical perspective. What patterns are you seeing now that you didn't see before? And what should we do as a community to address those patterns?
So some of it is an extension of what I've heard or what I've said. And then some of it is some of this nuance that we've had in the time of COVID. So we have fortunately or unfortunately are having to operate multiple roles like simultaneously. Like before, you could send the kids off to school and you had a set of hours in which you could kind of grind and get work done or have separate time away from your partner or whomever. But now, at least for the past year and a half, all of that for some of us has been happening under the same roof. And so everybody's getting sick of everybody, understandably so. And so that those pieces around self-care that I just talked about can seem impossible, but it is possible. So being very selfish about your needs. And I want us to kind of take ownership of that word selfish and, dust off some of the negativity around that. And partly because we know our needs best, more so than our partner, more so than our children, more so than our business partners. And so if we can speak to the fact that I'm really feeling kind of exhausted, I'm really feeling overwhelmed, the pressure that alleviates off of you as a person, and it gives the person that you're in connection with a direction. Like they know something's up when we're not feeling our best. The people closest to us know something's up. We have a short temper, or maybe we go silent, or something is going on. But they're usually looking to us to give life to that and words to that so they can best help us. So be very selfish in getting your needs met. And ideally, as you build your business, you can add, this is me and my bias, right? That you can add a therapist to your business building team. Because I think that is just as important as a graphic designer, as a lawyer, as an accountant. And so when I say a therapist, you can go into like traditional therapy and start that process. I've done it myself. Or you can do some level of like a workshop, just something where you are connecting with someone who's going to tap into that emotional wellness of you, because that will be the only person on your business building team that's focused on you as the person and not as in the growth in terms of the bottom dollar for your business. So you need that person. So that's a coach, a consultant, a therapist, but whomever, you need to make sure that you connect with somebody as you build your business.
I love it. Thank you so much. I know
Absolutely.
you're more than welcome to hang around.
Yeah, I can hang around for a few. Absolutely.
Okay,
So
okay,
yeah.
it's going. So Alina, what really, when I read your bio, you talked about, having 4 little ones. And I have 2 big ones, and I'm like pulling my hair out. You have 4 little ones, started multiple businesses, and you are coaching other entrepreneurs on their journey. Where do you have Alina time? Like, how do you even turn the voices off in your head? Like, what are some of the tips to really use that self-care word? I guess, I'm scared to use it now, Dr.
No. We reclaim it. Come on, bring it back.
How do you shut down all the channels in your head so you don't have a mental breakdown or have those moments where you can't function?
Yeah. So I really try to be a coach that practices what she preaches. So my clients, when I start getting on them, they know it's because I've been there. I have been the business owner who has gotten to the point, and I'll even go back to my corporate career. Like, I started working in investment banking right out of college, which, it's just like you're not getting any sleep. And so early in my career, I experienced, those health challenges. I thought I was having a heart attack and found out it was really just acid reflux, but it was coming from stress that had caused ulcers. And I was 26 years old. And, when I looked to my left and my right in my industry, what I saw was women who were in their 30s who looked like they were 50, their skin there was no elasticity left. I saw women, in their 40s finally trying to have children because they were ready to slow down. And with that, many of them were having to do things like IVF. And I remember one of my managers telling me, as you think about building your career, look at the people who are where you want to be and tell me if their life reflects the life that you want. And when I did that, I realized that even though there was, the money and the houses and the cars and the travel, when it came to overall well-being and happiness, I did not see that in their eyes. And so I have always been someone who is very purpose-driven. I jokingly talk about how when I was 9 years old, I started a book club, and it was called Nia, after the Kwanzaa principle that means purpose. I mean, what 9-year-old? I was so lame. What a nerd, right? But I made all my friends come to the Southwest Library, like, we're getting ready to get into this chicken soup for the soul, girls. Let's do it. So this has always been me. So when it comes to self-care or taking care of Alina, I'm always going to choose me, period. And I had this conversation with my husband the other day because he was like, I feel like we have limited time with the kids being out of school, and I look up and you're getting your lashes and your hair done and your nails done. And I'm like, listen, if those things do not happen, sir, this house is going to crumble because I am going to go insane. And I think that it's important that we realize what brings us joy, what our true needs are, because without them, we cannot serve ourselves, which then makes it impossible for us to serve others. I always tell my clients to make every decision and choose every boundary based on their guiding light or their North Star, which is basically, kind of like a mantra for their life. And then I also have people pick their top 3 that are the priorities in the current season that they're in. Not to say that they can't change, but in their current season. So for me personally, my top 3 are mental health, family, and building my business. And people say, oh, I would think that your children are first. And it goes back to that principle of, I have been the mom that has experienced postpartum depression. I experienced it with all 3 of my first kids. And that really came from basic needs not being met, not being able to sleep, not being able to have a healthy diet, not feeling and looking like myself. And so this time around, I knew with the pandemic, it could be all bad, right? Because we're all stuck in the house. I'm already, hormone prone. So I had to go over and beyond to take care of myself. And that has served me really, really well. And so with my clients, I don't help anyone build their business that's going to lead to burnout. Like I have an anti-hustle culture, and we just don't do it. If I see people getting too stressed, we got to come back to the North Star. What are we doing? Where do we need to build in rest? Where do we need to build in repleting activities? Because that's over. Like, that's just not on trend to me anymore. We're not going to kill ourselves for $1 anymore.
I love that. And I want to piggyback off of what you said about your protecting yourself and your kids. One thing I used to be, as a mom, I used to get very nervous about time spent with my kids. And when I think back at myself as a child, growing up, my mother owned a nightclub, always busy. If we were with her, we were working, we were washing dishes, we were putting flyers on cars. It was something. We were a working family. And I turned out okay, right? Outside looking in, you would have thought, oh, she got her kids working. Or, oh, no, it built a great work ethic. My siblings are all successful. The club, Twins Jazz, extremely successful. Unfortunately, we had to close because of COVID. But when grandma offers to take that baby on vacation, or that friend says, oh, let's have a play date, or give them kids away, if they're in safe company and you trust those individuals and, making sure they're 100% safe, send them off. Let them have great memories with auntie and uncle and unc, whoever, so you can have that space, because it's sometimes only stuck in our head. I just wanted to share that because that's something that I personally had to learn.
I love that. And it's kind of when we think about business, right? We talked about it earlier, delegating, find people to help. It's the same thing at home. Like, even if your child has a basketball game, right? We want to be at every basketball game to be the perfect mom, but you don't have to be that one loved one that goes. Like, if grandma goes, they're going to be just as happy, right? Like, that is the purpose of having a village. And the more we can make our village step up for us, because that's what I have found to be the biggest challenge. No one knows how to help a mother that's struggling, apparently. So you have to be direct and say, hey, it would be great if you could pick up the kids. It would be great if you could cook for us today, because without that, we end up just resenting everyone that has free time.
Absolutely. So, professional development, right? You both are in careers that help individuals with their professional development. What do you do personally to make sure that you are constantly learning, and what tips do you give to entrepreneurs? Are there benchmarks that you should set? What does that look like to make sure that you are showing up properly, that you are the best at what you claim that you can do? Because I find when I am thoroughly educated about something, I show up and I have less anxiety because I know more. So talk to us about professional development and what that should look like for an entrepreneur. I'll start with you, Dr. Taylor.
Okay. So in terms of my role as a therapist, there are some things I just have to do to hold on to my license. I have to have my continuing education credits every year. And so I'm licensed in both Georgia and Virginia. So they have their different numbers. So I have to constantly make sure I do that, which essentially means that I will attend workshops, or sometimes I can do a self-study about all sorts of topics: ethics, diversity, family counseling, a whole bunch of things. But I get to choose, but I have to do that every year. And then more towards the business end, I have an accountability partner. I affectionately call him my business buddy. And so I started my business maybe 2 years before him, but I am in comparison, the way we operate is sort of night and day. He is very structured and very like, I'm checking this box, checking that box. And I am what I like to have shiny key syndrome. I get very excited about the new thing. I'm constantly daydreaming about how things can be different. I just get very excited about that. And so we meet on a monthly basis, and it's great to have these conversations, particularly with someone in the same industry and someone who thinks differently, because he can kind of zoom in on like so did you write that down? Like, I know, I mean, it sounds great, but you haven't written that down. You just throwing ideas out into the to the ether. And so, or have you checked in with this thing? And so he gets to see things and point out things for me that's rewarding, as well as for me, I get to kind of offer him the daydream. Like, yeah, that seems cool, but remember that time you talked about these things and how that can flourish. So being able to have my business buddy with someone who I could go over any part of my business, whether that's the finances, whether that's the business plan, and I could do it in a way that I wouldn't feel judged. He is in no way my competition. So being able to have that relationship has done so much for the business, because even if the two of us don't know it, we are such champions for each other. We will research it. I mean, there have been moments where, hey, I saw this thing and I sent this to you. And so it's almost like we've kind of gone to like this unofficial college together in the way that we built our businesses. But that has been a thing that has really been helpful, as well as I have a monthly group that I meet with other Black therapists. And so there we get to talk about kind of the nature of how y'all doing, which are y'all taking new clients, and who is specializing in what. And so that's a good way to kind of keep the landscape, for me to have a good eye on the landscape of the mental health needs in the area. So I've kind of found my way, and really the biggest solution for me has been people. So when I kind of bury my head down and I don't get connected, that's when I get the most kind of confused and turn around and stuck in my dreams. But when I get connected to other folks, I can truly see how those things can be a reality for me.
I love that. So the therapists are giving each other therapists. That's
Listen, we got to talk to somebody. Who we got to talk to? So
it's so fascinating. It's just like, as a kid, when you think about teachers, you think they don't have like a normal life, and you're like, therapists go to therapists? Oh, okay.
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely.
So, Alina, what does professional development look like for you, and how should entrepreneurs make sure that that is a part of their strategy going forward?
Yeah, I think that for me, I have a love for learning, so it's nonstop every Monday. So, I'm a big proponent of time blocking. And so with it, there's also, I have thematic days. And so on Monday is my content consumption day, which is really my professional development, because I'm learning new skills, I'm attending webinars, I'm reading books, I'm catching up with people. Something that has become very useful for me this year is attending mastermind sessions where entrepreneurs and other business owners literally just get in a space like this and talk about their challenges in their business, which then turns into a conversation around, well, this is, best practice, or this is a resource that you can use. That has been invaluable for me this year. Like, I've found out about so many apps and software and tech stacks that just make my life easy that I would not have known about had I not been in that. I also have started to build partnerships within my business model. So outside of just the things that I offer directly to my clients, I've now started to partner with people who have businesses where we have the same target audience, and maybe they offer marketing, right? And I'm more of the productivity and life coaching. And so we kind of tag team. But in doing that, I've been able to develop myself further professionally, because most of those people that I partner with deal more with corporate clients. So what I find that when you're looking to take on more corporate contracts, they want you to also have these business certifications. So whether that's a small women-owned business certification or a minority-owned business certification, those programs are amazing for you to not only establish the network, but get the training ongoing. And so I also encourage my clients to have industry related coaching or classes or workshops regularly. So like, I have a client who we meet weekly, but she also has a real estate coach. So where I can give her, high level things about managing her life around her real estate business, I can't tell her, how to read the numbers on a house appraisal. So I encourage people to get with someone who knows their industry. And then we normally just kind of I'm like the quarterback for all of these different resources for my clients. And then lastly, I personally have found that there are so many things that are just compounding in what's available in the tech space. So what I am encouraging a lot of people to do is to really get in front of opportunities for Black people to take advantage of technology, software, currency, stock markets, but make it unique for their business, right? Because what we're seeing is a change in landscape where the professional services that were needed 10 years ago are obsolete. You know, like teams are being replaced, things are being replaced by APIs. So thinking about what is my skill set and how can this skill set keep up with the next wave? And so trying to read those LinkedIn articles that have nothing to do with your current business and trying to figure out how you can be the first one in that space based on your skill is something that I personally do, but I also encourage my clients to do.
I love that. To me, when you think about professional development, you know, you think about yourself individually, but technology is either going to make or break you. And that's going to really throw you off, like I was in the beginning of this call, if you don't put the right components in place, marketing automation, the right software, all of that good stuff really can help you run your business more effectively, but then also give you peace of mind because you know it's like a well-oiled machine if you set it up properly. We have about 13 minutes left. My chat box has froze. So Ine, if you could go through the chat. I know there was a few questions in there. I would love to open it up to the floor to see if there's any questions for our experts. As you're doing that, I also want to talk about like getting started outside of getting the money right, outside of find the perfect brick and mortar location or website address, all of the technical and financial pieces. From a mental health perspective, what does that checklist look like to say, yes, I am sound and ready to get, because there's so much risk involved. And I hear so much about people out of nowhere having panic attacks. I was perfectly healthy and then I did this and then I'm like passing out. What does that checklist need to look like so that you are just as strong as your finances or everything else that you need to start your business? And I'll start with you, Dr. Taylor.
So I would say that there's a few things that come to the top of my mind. One is to actually to piggyback off what Elena just talked about is check in with your local, regional, and statewide resources. So the Small Business Association, SBA, will have all sorts of like webinars and workshops, and there are funding opportunities there as well. So when we tend to talk about money or don't talk about money, those are the things that tend to rise to the top as stressors for us as either solo entrepreneurs or Black entrepreneurs or Black women entrepreneurs. In terms of internally, one is that recognizing in this business building journey that creating this business is going to highlight your strengths, the things that you are just phenomenal at. I mean, you can do in your sleep, but it also is going to highlight your issues. And so I'll use myself as an example. I was certainly one, I say was, because I don't do this anymore, who thought that she could just do everything. Like, okay, I'm smart enough that I can figure this out. Like, just give me a second, I'll figure it out. And all it took was for me to double booked. I think I might have even triple booked. I had a client in my office and a client in the waiting room that had the same appointment time. And that was because I was seeing clients all day, checking emails and voicemails in between clients, trying to get them scheduled. And I was like, okay, all these other mistakes have just been a blowback on me. But now I am impacting the care of others. And so I've gone too far. I got to cut this out. So a result of that, I had to, you all talked about virtual assistants, and I got a virtual assistant. And she has, I consider her to be the gatekeeper of the business. And that has been wonderful. So just recognizing that as you build your business, you are going to be able to tell the things that you are a superstar in, but also you are going to be humbled. And recognize that that is actually part of the journey. I needed to know that that was my issue, that I was trying to do too much by myself, and that I needed to pull other people in to help me so that I can go even further. So when those moments happen, envision it as an opportunity, even though it might bruise our ego a little bit, but that's an opportunity to make something different happen for ourselves. And then the third part, which is kind of connected, is do not try to do this by yourself. Please do not build a business by yourself. If it's your family members, if it's, going to your local chamber of commerce, if it is, if you're connected to a community organization, get somebody to help you. Please don't do this. don't try to do this by yourself. Get you a virtual assistant. I mean, you need a lot of people around you, because there are going to be moments when you are, when you're all doing well, you're a golden star, but other moments that are going to be so terribly tough, because building a business just drains every part of your resources. Financially, physically, it takes a toll on your body, emotionally, and you're just going to need some support. And so to try to do this alone, it's kind of a losing battle.
Amen. Preach all of that. Like, that was exactly what I know I needed to hear. So Alina, what does that checklist look like for you?
So I think that when it comes to starting a business, a couple of things come to mind. First, I think that it's important that people really understand themselves and what they want. And I recognize that someone, and I'm gonna actually make this into a Facebook post because I'm curious what people think. But one of my clients told me that one of her colleagues retires every 5 years. And after he retires, he takes like 2 years off, travels, and then hops back in. And what this has done for him is it's made it where he has allowed himself to create a life that not only fuels him and allows him to flourish, but also makes him very marketable, because he has the time and space to come up with ideas and tactics and develop new skills that people who are in the rat race cannot do. And so when I mentioned this to some of my friends, one of my friends said, Black people, we don't even have the privilege of thinking like that. I was like, you know what? You're kind of right. Like, for so long, we have just been trying to catch up, right? We know, how systemic racism has impacted our ability to, rise up, right? We're not at the same starting place when we talk about these businesses. Like, people who are handed businesses or handed cash to start businesses, they're not dealing with the same type of stress that we inherently deal with when we become business owners. And so one of the things that I personally focus on is thinking about, how do we think about what business has to look like? Do you immediately look at starting a business or making millions of dollars as something that's going to be super stressful, that's going to take all of your time, that you're not going to have a life? Because if so, that's probably a money block, right? Or a mindset block, or a limiting belief, as someone would call it. Because there are others that are thinking, hey, I may not ever have to leave my home, and by just putting this system on autopilot, I can make millions. And so I think that when it comes to what we want, we have to decide, do we want to build businesses where we have to travel the world? Or do you want a business where you can work by the beach? Do you want a business where you can incorporate your family and friends? What type of lifestyle do you want? And does the business that you're talking about align with that, right? A lot of people, I want to work from anywhere. But you just told me that you wanted to create a global brand. How are you going to work from anywhere when, you need to be in the office, right? How are you going to work by the beach when you have to be in a distribution center to check this, and this? So I think that I spend a lot of time up front helping people really get still enough to realize what they want, because most of us have never had that opportunity. COVID was the first time for many of us. And that's why I feel like it was a blessing and a curse, because I think that some people had to finally hear the actual thoughts in their head, rediscover who they really were. And now it's just kind of like, okay, well, what am I going to do with that? Right? And like Dr. Taylor said, she said, you're going to learn your strengths and your weaknesses, and it's going to humble you. And the busyness of life has allowed so many of us the opportunity to escape who we really are. And so even if we had a weakness, we could just like silence it with busyness or work or whatever. And so when it came to communication or understanding ourselves or dealing with trauma, those are things that we never had to face because, oh, I got to go to work, right? Work is like the end all be all. And then it's like, okay, well, let me stop this and start a business. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, shoot, how did I think I was going to start a business and I don't even know how to communicate with myself? I don't even know how to sit still. I don't even have these skill sets to like calm my mind or be mindful around my needs. And so when we think about building a business, I encourage people to really figure out, like, who are you? Like, what is it that you like? What do you enjoy? What do you need? And then based off of those needs, build your business around your life. Don't build your life around your business or your life around your work. That's something that a lot of us are not doing. Americans in general, but especially Black people, because we never got the opportunity to do that. And so that would be the first step for me, is just allowing us to start thinking about how we want to show up every day and then build the business based on that. I work 2 days out of the week and everybody thinks that I'm crazy. How do you do that? And it's because I'm very intentional with my time. I know what my priorities are in this season. Am I making the most money that I've ever made in life? No. But I feel much wholer than I did when I was making millions of dollars working 24/7. So when I know what I want right now, being able to only have to work 2 days a week is millions to me right now, and so it's really kind of knowing, what do you want that to feel like? So I know I ramble, but
No,
that's kind of what came to
That's
my mind.
fantastic.
no, that's fantastic. And what I heard you say is sometimes we got to start at the finish line. What does that finish
Yeah.
line look like, and how do we go backwards? And then we build accordingly. I think that is very powerful. And money in the bank does not mean happiness. I ask God to bless me so I can figure it out.
Yeah.
But until then, everyone that I speak, I'm gonna take everyone's word for it. But I know to your point, when you say look at the individuals around you who are at the level that you want to be at, are they happy? What does their face look like? All of that kind of stuff. Take that into consideration. That's really great advice. So we have 2 minutes left. So I want to give you, Dr. Taylor, a minute, and you, Alina, a minute to final words. The people on this call are either about to start a business, are in the thick of it, scared. They're here because when we said mental health and entrepreneurs, something triggered and they had to be here. So what are your last words, Dr. Taylor? And please share all of your social media handles, all that when you close out, so that everyone can follow you and stay connected.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. What's the final word? Well, first of all, if you've joined us tonight, you're making steps in the right direction. The fact that you are wanting to seek out more information, be in the company of like-minded folks, you're already doing a good job. And sometimes it feels so good for someone to say, you're doing good, you're doing good. And sometimes that person has to be you. So for some people, that means that we create some affirmations, and I'm all about those, reminding ourselves who we are, because as you go out there and build your business, you're going to get a lot of no's, or not right now, or let me think about it. People who are going to try to undersell you. Can you do this for free? Can you do it for $20? You're going to get all sorts of things that are going to push and pull you. But having those solid spaces where you can kind of go back to the basics, reminding yourself of who you are, whose you are, right? And then what you have to offer the world, I think, are things that are going to take you very far. Do not do this by yourself. If you can get connected to a mental health resource, source, person, book, podcast, make sure you do those things too. Because as you build your business, that's going to be the last thing that you hear people talk about in most cases. And so I think that there are spaces around for you to soak up all these good things. And if you get lost in all that, you have the resources here in front of us. Reach out to Elena, reach out to myself, reach out to Shop HellaBlack, because they have resources as well. But don't try to do this alone. And like Elena said, stay connected to your North Light and guiding star.
I love that. Thank you so much. And Dr. Taylor, where can folks find you, follow you, and all that good stuff?
Fantastic. So the website is called mindedmyblackbusiness.com. And on Instagram, I am under Dr. Janae Taylor. And on, as well as LinkedIn. And then Twitter is Minded My Black Biz. So I'm going to put all that in the chat as well.
It. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Alina, bring it home.
Oh, pressure. I think that, the biggest thing that, just based on my experience when it comes to mental health in business is that you just have to get in front of it. Like we have two choices. We can be proactive or reactive, right? We know that about health in general. And we live in a culture that physical health and the way that we look is, this pedestal, and mental health is kind of like, oh, reactionary, If I get to the crazy house, then I'll deal with it, especially in our community. And that just is crazy to me. I think that when we have our mental health in order, when it's the priority, everything else works well after that. When we're nourishing our spirits with the right foods, with the right amount of sleep, you'll be amazed at how well you will do in life by just getting sleep. Like I did a sleep challenge, my whole life changed, and I did it with a newborn. So get some sleep. That's my big takeaway. But I just think that, I saw something in the chat around just like funding, funds getting low. And when it comes to therapy, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have, the best health care. So it is expensive. Like I always tell my therapist, listen, this $175 every session, baby, that's hurting me. Okay, I got 4 kids. But I think about all of the things that I put at risk if I don't have it. I think about all of the months that I'm going to be, depressed or, in bed if I don't get in front of it. And it's going to be a lot more expensive. There are so many plans out there that, you can get for free if you're unemployed or at a reduced rate. Just look for them. People are not looking for these resources because they're not as much of a priority as some other things. But if you want success, the best thing that you can do is realize that your energy and your mindset and your ability to focus is your biggest currency. That's how high performers succeed. You're never going to meet someone that's up here that doesn't tell you about their therapist, their balancing chakras, their spiritual guide. They got the whole gamut of them, right? And so success leaves clues. And, just really getting in front of it and getting your team together is going to be a great move. You guys can find me at thereminderremedy.com, where I offer 2 programs. Flourishing Efficiently is my first step into mindful productivity. And then once you go through that 4-week program, you're introduced to my signature program, which is called Life Crafting, which is really about what I just said, crafting your life around the things that are most important to you in a mindful way. I'm on Instagram at Alina Conley or at The Reminder Remedy. And I have a podcast called The Reminder Remedy, where you can check out, the best productivity hacks and everything positive psychology.
I love it. So before everyone leaves, we need to subscribe to 2 podcasts. We need to follow these fabulous Black women who are making sure that we are showing up and showing out in our businesses. And so on behalf of the HellaBlack community, our founders, I just want to thank you both for sharing and for providing us with these gems. We cannot make a profit if it's depleting us as human beings, as mothers, as daughters, as sisters, as aunties, whatever category you're in, we're in this together. And that's why we started HellaBlack. That's why we have a resource hub and have all of these tools available for our entrepreneurs, because we know there's a gap and we want to be that source and that resource to help fill those gaps. And with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This was such a powerful conversation. I know I learned a lot, and I hope you did too. And going forward, please follow us on Instagram at Shop HellaBlack. If you want to become a vendor, like I said at the top of our conversation, please visit HellaBlack.com.